So, May Day. What does May Day mean to you? Flowers in the square, street protests, workers' rights, or perhaps just a day off work? But you know the real meaning of May Day? Whatever springs to mind, you're almost certainly mistaken. The real meaning is far more interesting and goes back to over 5,000 years ago. Ask most people today what May Day means, and you'll hear about protests, placards, and the fight for workers' rights. In many parts of the world, May the 1st is International Workers' Day, a time to honour workers, unions, and the struggle for fair conditions. This particular modern association with industry and workers' rights is due to many countries accepting the declaration of the 1st of May as International Workers' Day. It was chosen to honour those who fought for workers' rights in what has now become known as the Haymarket Affair. On May the 4th, 1886, in Chicago's Haymarket Square, a peaceful rally for an 8-hour workday ended in tragedy when an unknown assailant hurled a bomb into the police line. The blast and ensuing gunfire left 7 officers and at least 4 civilians dead and scores wounded. The subsequent trial, based largely on the defendants' political beliefs, resulted in the execution of 4 labour leaders and long prison sentences for the others. The Haymarket riot became a symbol of resistance of working people demanding dignity in an industrial world that too often treated them solely as implements of industrial production. A very sad scar on the record of humanity. The fight for human rights and reasonable working conditions is, of course, a very worthy cause, and their sacrifice one very worthy of remembrance. But there is another side to May Day. We often see many other celebrations and festivals on May Day, and they clearly have no connection with industrial struggles. These tend to be much more focused on the joy of nature, and 'tis these traditions that tell us where May Day's roots truly lay. They lay in a belief that is far more profound, far deeper, and far older than most would imagine. Something our ancestors passed on to us, and something they held as most sacred. So to understand what May Day really truly means, let's go right back to the very beginning. And that starts with the people called the Yamnaya. And the Yamnaya were the ancient ancestors to all of the great European civilizations. Over 5,000 years ago, a horse-riding people known as the Yamnaya swept across the vast Eurasian steppe. They buried their dead beneath mounds stained crimson with red ochre. They herded cattle across the grasslands and harnessed the wheel to pull their wagons. Yet it was their religion and their spiritual beliefs that would cast its greatest influence into every corner of Europe. These beliefs reflected the world as they saw it, and as they were some of the first herdsmen and farmers, their beliefs revolved around the natural world and the cycles of nature. In the Yamnaya cosmology, the sky itself was divine. They called him the Sky Father, whose life-giving light met with the fertile embrace of the Dʰéڳʰōm, the Earth Mother. There was a goddess of the dawn, still remembered today in many European cultures. Think of the Greek Eos, the Roman Aurora, or the old Anglo-Saxon goddess Eostra, who brought in the dawn of the summer at the spring equinox. Duality was reflected in their beliefs with the divine twins, who rode glistening horses, safeguarded the herds and the flocks, and guided lost souls back to home. And again we see these same divine twins reflected through cultures in Europe, such as the divine twins of the Celtic Brythonic tradition, with Llyw and Dylan, the children bared in shame by the goddess Arianrhod. Llyw, the god of the sun, clever with the tongue and master of arts and crafts, and Dylan, a god of the seas and a saviour of lost mariners. There was also the Sun Maiden, who carried daylight across the heavens in her elegant chariot, a figure whose presence is reflected in the artefacts of many ancient European Iron Age cultures. And to round things off, within this great pantheon was also a host of nature and local spirits, all of them responsible for their part in animating the living world. As Yamnaya tribes expanded into Europe, they mingled with the local peoples, bringing with them their beliefs and influencing a tapestry of new and emerging cultures. From the Greeks and the Romans to the Celts, the Germanic tribes, the Balts, the Slavs and the Norse, the Yamnaya brought the beliefs and values of which all of these cultures were founded. But how did these ancient beliefs transform into the May Day celebrations that we know today? And why, after many a millennia, the 1st of May still echoes back to nature's great sacred cycle? As the Yamnaya merged with Neolithic farming communities across Europe, their sacred cosmology didn't vanish. It transformed. Over generations, nature's divine rhythms were woven into the seasonal festivals that marked the wheel of the year, the solstices, the equinoxes, and the cross-quarter days that fell between. One of the most powerful of these was the Celtic festival of Beltane, celebrated on the eve of May, when spring tipped into summer. It was a threshold festival, a time when the veil between the worlds thinned and life burst into bloom. Fires were lit on the hilltops not for warmth, but for purification and protection. Cattle were driven between twin flames in a ritual to cleanse them before the summer pastures. People leapt the fires to symbolically seal unions and ensure fertility, not just of animal and field, but of tribe and spirit. But Beltane wasn't just about fertility. It was about the balance of forces, light over dark, growth over decay, and order over chaos. Another great May Day tradition that has its roots back with the ancients is that of maypoles and maypole dancing. The maypole rises from the land like a tree and is symbolic of the tree of life, the living Axis Mundi, the tree that is at the centre of everything and which all things revolve around. It's a cosmic pillar representing union, a union between the sky and the earth, spirituality and physicality, and a connection to the great all. And it brings with it the dance that reflects the revolving cycle of the seasons. But perhaps the most telling of all are the celebrations of the Green Man and the May Queen, whose ritual reenactment of their union and marriage symbolises the joining of the two great forces. The maturing sun god incarnate in his role as the virility and life force of the land, and the May Queen, the Earth Mother herself. And while the details of the rituals varied from culture to culture, their essence remained the same. May Day, in its earliest and truest form, was a sacred celebration. It marked the end of darkness and the return of light, the joy of summer's arrival and the sacred union of the land with the spiritual forces that govern the seasons. It was really a celebration of renewal and a celebration of new life itself. So if you've all enjoyed this discussion on the origins of May Day, then don't forget to give us that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And with that, I'll see you again very soon on the next one.